Is there a reality underneath our reality? What are you saying, Sin? Are you talking about the Matrix? Maybe. The book we're going to talk about today is called The Morningside by Tea Obreht. This book follows this character, Sylvia, from when she was kind of a young little girl. And Sylvia may believe that there is a world underneath the actual world where things are not quite as they seem. Her aunt, Ina, kind of feeds into this. When she's younger, her and her mother end up going to live with their aunt Ina in this building called the Morningside. They are part of what is called the repopulation program. It seems like this could be a post-apocalyptic scenario. A lot of wildlife has gone and there's not a lot of creatures around anymore. Everything is run down. There is mention of prior wars and how everything fell apart and how they're trying to build it back up and all of that stuff. So they get accepted. They get to move into this building. When they go to live with the aunt, Sylvia's mother was always very, she didn't want to share her life with her daughter. And not in that way. Her daughter would ask questions about where her mom grew up and this, that, and the other, and the mom would just not want to tell her anything. She didn't really have a close relationship with her mother. Her mother would always tell her, never speak in our tongue, like our native language, around people you don't know. We don't want them to know because then if they find out, they can know what side of the war we were on and all of that, and that could be very bad. And so her mom didn't want to share anything that could lead the girl to speaking to get them in trouble as a protective measure. But also at the same time, it was not trusting her daughter. And her daughter never really understood why her mother was like this. And so they move in with the aunt, and the aunt starts telling all these stories about the farm that they came from and their family and this, that, and the other. And then she also starts telling her some sort of fantastical things and stories and such. And this one story she tells her is about this town from where they came from and how there used to be this villa, which was, it seemed like kind of like a goddess of some sort that was part of this mountain area. The people who kind of encroached on her land and did wrong, she would, if they tried to build a bridge, she would destroy the bridge over and over again because if they broke promises to her and such. And she tells her these fantastical stories. And at some point, she is talking to her aunt, and there's this neighbor that lives in the penthouse, Bezi Jerez, and apparently is very well off and wealthy. And she has these 3 dogs, and she only ever walks these 3 dogs at night. That makes me think of the band 3 Dog Night. Anyways, it's a really old band that most people probably have not heard of. So she has these 3 dogs that she walks at night. And it seems the aunt too also does a lot of maintenance around this building and whatnot. So her and her mom kind of help out around the building. And at one point, she's in one of the building apartments and she looks up and she sees the woman who lives in the penthouse, and she sees her changing, and she sees these scars that she has. Okay. So she decides that she's going to tell her aunt about this. And her aunt have this conversation, and Sylvia, the little girl, is like, I discovered something about Bezi Jerez. And the aunt was all says something about the dogs, and she was like, what? And the conversation progresses where she tells her about the scars that she saw, but the aunt also says that the dogs are human men. So then she's like, what? During the day, they're human men? And so it seems like the aunt's kind of feeding her lines, but what if the aunt is not? And so this sets off a whole thing where Sylvia decides that she wants to prove that those dogs that this woman owns are actually men. So you have that throughout the whole story. And then you have all these different characters that come into play. And the thing about this book is I finished it and I was like, that book was okay. But then I had a few days to think about it. And I was like, actually, that was pretty good. I think I liked it quite a bit. But it took a few days for me to think about it and for it to hit me. It had a fantastic ending. I thought the ending was pretty dang good. Just the storyline of the people and the ones who live there. And at first, Sylvia's the only girl of her age in the building. I think she was 11. I'm not 100% sure. And then at some other point, this brat hole girl Mila moves in. At first, she just doesn't want anything to do with Sylvia, but then Sylvia kind of lets her in on the secret of Betsy DeRez's 3 dogs that might be human men. And so the two of them, and this girl is like a little bully instigator. Stone all the way through. That's what Betsy DeRez said about her. But like she just like says the things out loud that maybe you're not supposed to say. And they sneak out late at night and stay out and go out into the city and see things they probably shouldn't see. And it was kind of a heartfelt and sweet and weird story. I really liked the characters. They were strange, the situations they came through, and the daughter and her mother finally like getting a bit of closure on their animosity in the relationship. That comes into play at a certain point in the story. And like I said, it took me a few days to kind of sit with it to actually feel that way. Because at first I was like, it was okay. And you know what my problem was? I'll tell you what it was. About maybe 3 or 4 days prior, I had finished a Brandon Sanderson book that left me in a book hangover. So of course, when you read a book that's so freaking good, and then you read another book that just doesn't live up to that standard, it kind of like, it messes with how you would normally maybe like a book. And I think that's kind of what happened. It took me a few days to be like, no, that was actually pretty good. If you like stories about a reality that's like underneath our reality that might exist or might not, maybe it's all just BS, then The Morningside might just interest you. It was a strange and mysterious read. I read it in a few days, and yeah, it didn't take that long to read. It wasn't too long of a book. And if you like strange and mysterious books, the next video coming up will be about a book that is strange and mysterious. So stick around, check it out. And if you enjoyed hanging out today, hit that subscribe button, come back, see me again, and we'll talk about more bookish things and weird stuff.